bright like I'm the sun. Telling all my friends drugs will never beat me. Fight for my city like my name is Kiki. Rapping drug free, and I'ma scream it loud. Don't be testing, I'ma take it to my people proud. Red ribbons high, drugs will never beat me. I'm saying no, I be on the Kiki. Red ribbons high, drugs will never beat me. I'm saying no, I be on that Kiki. Red ribbons high, drugs will never beat me. I'm saying no, I be on that Kiki.
Jaguar Scholars, welcome to Red Ribbon Week. I know a lot of you have already heard some of the great information that has been shared by many of our staff and teachers that are here at William Wirt Middle School. So welcome. And during Red Ribbon Week, we are going to be happy, be brave, be alcohol and drug free. So today, I'm going to share with you some really good information as it relates to drug and alcohol use, intervention, and also the things that we promote for drug-free and alcohol environments. So, my name is Mrs. Tisha Wells. Many of you know me. Some of you who don't know me, hello and welcome to William Wirt Middle School. I am the Crisis Intervention Resource Teacher, and I am here to serve you. So what we're going to do is go ahead and get started with our presentation. So we do know that Red Ribbon Week is celebrated annually. Yes, every year during the month of October. It is the nation's oldest and largest drug and alcohol prevention awareness program. So here we are. So the goals for us today, we're going to talk about types of drugs, the major factors of influence, devices and use, effects and risk, alternative to expulsion if you are found in possession of alcohol or drugs, intervention strategies that we have for scholars here, and alternatives and refusal skills. And then we're going to top it off with an activity at the very end. So the tobacco and other drugs vocabulary, these are some of the drugs that have been discovered within the school district. And these are the drugs, and we'll talk about the alcohol that will be, or that students will be held accountable for. So there are steps that we do have to take once we do find out if a student is found in possession with marijuana, cocaine, or heroin. We're talking about other drugs here, smokeless tobacco or vaping, different things of that nature. So we want to make sure that students are well aware of the expectations here at William Wirt Middle School. So the different types of drugs here are over-the-counter drugs, prescription drugs, and illegal drugs. We do know that over-the-counter drugs are drugs that you can purchase for common cold or different things like that. And a prescription drug is something that a doctor actually prescribes for you to use. The illegal drugs are, of course, that are not given to you by a doctor or prescribed to you by a physician, and it's not given to you over the counter. So we want to make sure that we have an understanding of the different types of drugs. So the major factors and influence of alcohol and drug use. You have peer pressure. A lot of the students are facing a tremendous amount of peer pressure by their peers, their family members, or if there's family, all type of family problems that the scholar is involved in, and even the media, the things that we find on our cell phones and on the TV and other social media platforms. And the influences of drug use, as we mentioned a little earlier, the influence, stress factors and life factors, peer pressure, role models, different things like that, poor family relationships, all influence drug and alcohol use. So we want to make sure that scholars understand what some of the triggers are that causes alcohol and drug use. Now what we have here are called the smoking devices and other products. So we know that there are cigarettes or forms of cigarettes. We have e-cigarettes here. There are also cigars, chewing tobacco, and hookah. So any of these items that are found in or any student that is found in possession of these items will be held accountable for. And there are steps that are taken to make sure that the student is made aware of the expectation. And there are also intervention strategies that we use to help the student or scholar to avoid additional drug use or influencing other students to use drugs or drink alcohol. What we have here now are the behavioral effects of drug use and alcohol. So, for one, we do know that when you do drink alcohol, you become intoxicated. You become unaware of what's going on around you, where you are, who you're with, what you're doing. Everything becomes questionable. There are often times where students, or not just students, but individuals who experience or have experience with alcohol and drug use experience blackouts, meaning they participate in different activities. And then the next day, or maybe hours later, they may not even remember what they did, who they did it with, or where they did it. So it's very important that you understand the effects of drug and alcohol use. There's also impulsive behavior and aggressive behavior. So there are often times where students or individuals may demonstrate impulsive behavior, acting out of their normal character or acting out of their normal behavior, things that they don't normally do. So they become very upset easily. They're very aggressive. They may use profanity or harsh words to other students or maybe even teachers. So these are some of the effects that you can actually observe in an individual who has had experience with alcohol and drug use. The major risk. So we talked about the influences, we talked about the types of drugs. Now the risk are being, of course, underage drinking. That is one thing. We also have here, which are the legal risk, getting involved with law enforcement or being incarcerated for drug and alcohol use. You have another situation here where you have drunk driving for those who participate in alcohol, drunk driving or alcohol poisoning. And then you have what's called binge drinking. And this is just drinking uncontrollably at one particular time or a set time. And then you may not drink for a while, and then you may just drink a whole lot of alcohol at that time. So these are some of the major risks that are associated with alcohol and alcohol use. So what we have here is the alternative to expulsion. So expulsion is just another term for a student or a scholar who has been placed on out of school suspension for the remainder of the school year. Now, there are different types of suspensions. You have short suspension, short term, you have long term suspension, and then what you have is expulsion. So, there are things that we're going to review, and particularly with the facts as to what happens to a student who is found in possession or use of any alcohol or drug. There's a first offense, there's a second offense, and third or more offenses. So we'll talk about what happens in those steps there. So let's take a look here. We are going to look at the alternative to expulsion. Now, the reason we say it's the alternative to expulsion is because we want to make sure that the students remain in school. That is our goal. So it's our responsibility as educators to make sure that we provide students and families with the resources that they need to remain alcohol and drug free. Because our goal is to make sure that we maintain drug free schools in every school, not just in Prince George's County, but around the world. Okay, so this is the alternative to expulsion facts and procedures for students, administrators, and parents. So as you can see, we're going to move through this fairly quickly. The parents and the guardians have to be made aware of each incident that takes place in the school or on school property in regards to a student or a scholar being in possession with alcohol or drugs. So we have here, and I'll just go ahead and highlight what we have. We have what's called the first offense. So the first offense is here: using alcohol or controlled dangerous substances or any of the drugs that we pretty much discussed earlier in the presentation. So a student may be placed on short-term suspension, which is 1 to 3 days, at the discretion of the principal, vice principal of the school. So the student will also be required to complete a community alcohol drug program. So I'm kind of highlighting this here, and I may be crossing it out just a little bit, but it's a community alcohol and drug counseling program, and it's for a minimum of 2 sessions to be completed, no later than 4 weeks from the date of the incident. So if you were found in possession of alcohol during one particular week, of course, you have up to 4 weeks to make sure that those 2 courses are completed. And we'll talk about those county approved programs that you can attend to make sure that those sessions are completed. During that session, you will speak with a drug counselor, a drug and alcohol specialist, who will guide you to making sure that you understand what happened and what steps can we prevent to make sure or to ensure that we don't arrive there again. Okay. And the good thing is that you're able to, during those sessions, you're able to talk about some of the triggers, some of the things that are causing you to react in such a way. All right, so let's scroll down just a little further. That is the first offense. And of course, there's another form that has to be completed when you are attending your sessions. So if you look here, there's another form. You have to make sure that you put the school name, the name of the student goes here. And you'll also write your name, your parent or guardian name on the line. Well, the parent will fill this information out. Authorizing the drug and counselor specialist to provide services for you. Okay. Now that's with the first offense. Of course, we know that's for 2 sessions. Okay. So there's steps in regards to what takes place during those sessions. You do have to complete the sessions. You do have to be on time and present and engaged for each session. Once you are done with your sessions, the drug counselor specialist will then sign off, and you are to make sure that you bring this information signed and dated back to school. But since we are in a virtual setting, of course, everything will be sent electronically. But when we do return to school, these will be the forms that must be completed, signed and dated, and returned back to your grade level administrator. Okay, now this here talks about the second offense. The second time a student is found in possession of using alcohol, using a controlled or dangerous substances, or drug paraphernalia. Now, also let's talk about the drug use, possession, and distribution. That's 3 different things. So drug use is when you are using drugs either on property or you use drugs before you come to school. In possession of, you may be found in your pockets, in your book bag, or your locker. Yes, so I did talk about the use, possession, and distribution. The distribution, giving it to or distributing it to other students in the building. So those are the 3 different types. We have use on school property or before you come to school and you report to school under the influence. Possession, when it's found anywhere on your person, in your locker, in your book bag, in your pockets or your back pockets or your coat pockets. And distribution to other students in the building. So second offense, you will be placed on a 3-day out of school suspension. 3-day out of school suspension. And then you will have to complete at least 4 sessions. There's a 4-session drug counseling that is required. 4 sessions, 4 times. So you will meet with that drug counselor 4 times. So what we're going to do in those sessions, you're going to talk about again what happened the first time, what happened the second time, leading up to the second use. Okay? And then, of course, there's also additional information, making sure that we understand that the second use, a second offense is completed. The information that we talked about before with the school, the name of the student, the parent information goes here, and of course, the name of the agency and everything else that needs to be completed within this form and dated, signed, returned to your grade level administrator. Okay? Now, the third and fourth offenses, of course, it leads to a greater disciplinary action. And that time, that will be discussed as determined by your grade level administrator as to what steps will be taking place. Now, here are the county approved agency or services. Now, if you notice here, there are several facilities or services that are provided for you. We do have to make sure that before you schedule an appointment that you pay close attention to some of the information that's located underneath of each agency. So you want to make sure that you're prepared to pay a fee for the service if they require a fee for the service. Some of them may require you to just have health insurance. Some of them may not. Now, some of them may require that they only, so they only take health insurance, or they may charge a fee. So you may want to make sure that you're paying close attention to that. And also make sure that you notate the different times that they are available for services. There's a contact number underneath the name of each agency. There's an address that you can call for questions. And just make sure that you keep abreast of the actual, sometimes they may include an actual fee that may be charged to you or your family. Okay? So we want to make sure that scholars and families are well informed of the youth prevention and intervention counseling agencies that we have for you, should you be found in possession or use or distribution of any alcohol or drug use on school property. Jaguar Scholars, I hope that this has been very informative for you. And what we're going to do now is take a look at another activity, and this will be fun. This is the best part of it. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. So I would like for you to make sure that you are engaged and you are ready to play. Are you ready? Because I'm ready. Make sure that you answer questions. We only have 5 seconds for each question. So it's very important that you pay attention. And it's basically the information that we discussed during the presentation. So here we are. What can influence a scholar to drink alcohol and use drugs? A, peer pressure, family problems, and the media? Or B, riding a bike on a sunny day? A. Good job, if that's what you picked. Number 2, name 3 types of drugs discussed in the presentation. You have 5 seconds. Water, salt, and chlorine. Or B, over-the-counter, prescription, and illegal drugs. B is correct. Jordan, number 3. Jordan and Brittany have been best friends for 12 years, Jordan notices Brittany is demonstrating impulsive and aggressive behavior. Brittany may be thinking about her wedding day, A, or B, using drugs or drinking alcohol. B is the correct answer. One more question. During Red Ribbon Week, we promote scholars to swim in a lake with a life jacket, A, or be drug and alcohol free. Good job. So, Jaguar Scholars, I thank you so much for your time. What I would like for you to do is make sure that, if you feel free to ask for any questions, any suggestions as to anything that you need to reach out to me for, my email address, tisha.wells@pgcps.org. If you have any questions as it relates to what we discussed. And I just want to make sure that we are very clear, scholars, that we are very, very, very clear just before we leave about the actual positive alternatives to drug and alcohol use. There are things that you can do with your friends, with your family, that will keep you away from the influences or keep you away from those triggers, those things that will want you to engage in drug and alcohol use. We have here the mountain climbing. I know some of you may not be into mountain climbing, but a lot of you like to dance. A lot of you play instruments. Most of you play table games. And then some of you may like yoga or exercising, walking your pet, playing a sport. So these are things that we love to do that keep us from engaging in these negative behaviors. So we want to make sure that we are engaged and we're practicing this daily. Okay? Developing refusal skills as well. So talk about avoidance. Talk about with your friends. Talk about ways to avoid drug use. We're talking about just pretty much avoiding activities or ways or situations that might bring you to a point where you might be engaged in drug use. Also being direct and clear with your friends. Let them know up front how you feel. State why you are refusing and give examples of why you don't want to engage. Take action and remove yourself from a situation before it happens. Providing an alternative activity, as we talked about some of those activities that you all can participate in, family trips, different things that you can engage in instead of using alcohol or drugs. So again, scholars, Red Ribbon Week is our week where we promote drug-free, alcohol-free, illegal drug use. We are putting an end to it. If you know someone who is engaging, please feel free to share with them the information that is being shared with you throughout this entire week as it relates to family and friends and support systems, and especially the information that we discuss as it relates to if you are caught with using illegal drugs on school property or before you come to school. Okay, so again, with our Red Ribbon Week, we want to make sure that you be happy, be brave, be alcohol and drug free. Again, my name is Mrs. Tisha Wells, and I thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here with you, and I look forward to seeing you again.